Welcome, everyone. It's Mad. Today, we're going to talk about Gigantamax Snorlax, basically my own internal animal. So let's get ready, as it will appear from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. your local time on April 19th. So let's go. Let's talk about the event ticket. It's our normal $5 event ticket. You'll be able to access a timed research that gives you 25,000 XP and 1 max mushroom, but more importantly, you get 2 times XP for max battles. And your max particle collection limits increase to 5,600. The only thing that we haven't seen yet, or maybe I missed it, is if they're going to do the 8x collection. If that's the case, then this is definitely worth it. Without it, though, that 5,600 is going to be pretty hard to catch overall. On top of it, we will get a timed research April 16th through April 19th. That will give us a Dynamax Machop. But honestly, and Machop is really important for these battles, you can also get max particles that if you store and use Friday night, you can get an additional 2,000 or so, or 1,000 and change max particles to even get 1 or 2 more Snorlaxes done during the events, depending on how many people you have or how long you can farm Snorlax. But at the very least, it'll help you catch up if you need to get either like a Machop or one of the tanks ready for the event. And I will say this, these timed research are new and as a pretty wonderful addition. Got to give kudos when they're due. If you do buy the ticket for $4.99, you can buy it on the Pokemon Go web store, and it is a cent cheaper. You on top of it's not just a penny. You get a max particle pack at no additional cost. So if you are going to buy it, do it through the web store. It's definitely worth it. Now let's talk about Gigantamax Snorlax. Its strengths and weaknesses are very small. It takes 60% additional fighting damage and reduces damage 60.9% from Ghost. Otherwise, it is just normal damage everywhere across. Its stats, 190 attack is average, 169 defense is slightly below average. The 330 HP or for stamina is great. But Blissey is unfortunately way above, and we already have Blissey. But going to kind of sneak a little bit here and say, in a way, Snorlax is a better healer, and I'll explain why later. Finally, for IV, you're looking for an 1843 CP. I mean, I'm going to be getting 1780s, but hope you all get some 1843s. I'd like to see as many hundos for the chat as possible. All right, where Snorlax is boring on its stats and resistances, it is not boring on what moves it has and definitely charge moves, which honestly made this a lot more difficult to plan for than the average Snorlax. For fast moves, I'm going to choose Lick. The 0.5 seconds, the main reason. Ghost is a pretty nice type to use in general. If it is resistant to Ghost, you're then going to want to use Zen Headbutt. Otherwise, those are the two that you're going to be want. Yawn is definitely something you're not going to be interested in. And the Gmax Snorlax is going to be attacking with a normal Gmax move anyways, so it doesn't matter what type of attack that you use for your fast attack. Charge moves, Snorlax has many. Snorlax will be using 2 of these against us for each battle. Hyper Beam and Earthquake are the 2, though, that we would like to avoid if at all possible. Earthquake with the choice of tanks that I'm going to be choosing is just going to be ludicrous insanity. And I calculated that one of the earthquake damages is over 1,000. Hyper Beam can be tanked, and my damage calculation is going to be based off Raikou, so it's not perfect. It's just a good estimation to try to plan. Obviously, I've got the attacks. Snorlax is about 15% less damage overall. I do have that factored in even with that, and it's still Hyper Beam does an awful lot of damage. There's 2 other normals. Body Slam, which is going to be the one that you're definitely going to want to choose if you can. The other one's Skull Bash, which is still hurts a lot, but it's a little bit easier to tank. The other main one here that we're going to really would like to see is Body Slam and Heavy Slam, which is the steel type. Tanks I choose definitely have a plus in steel, except for one. And honestly, can be used if it has normal moves only, but otherwise it's a little risky. Superpower is fighting. The two real big tanks that I have also are resistant to fighting, so that won't be that bad. And actually, the other one would really actually like superpower even more than body slam. So really, we have 3 attacks that we're really looking for out of 7. 2 of them are okay, with outrage being the other one, and 2 of them being really, really deadly, and we need to avoid. All right, let's get to Gigantamax Snorlax damage capability, and we're just going to go with normal. It's a little hard to go beyond normal, as even Gmax Snorlax really falls behind almost all the other Gmaxes. Blastoise is the only one that does less damage right now. And normal's not really a super useful attack move type. And you can see that comparatively, the two, Gmax is way above damage to Blissey. But honestly, that's to no one's surprise. And even at level 50, we're talking about 100 and almost 20% more damage overall. And we will be using that as the main reason why I think Snorlax is a better healer than Blissey. Just stay with me for a little bit and I'll explain. Let's take a look at the damage by Blissey or Snorlax for the latest battles. Left side of the screen are Blissey damage types. Right side here of the screen is going to be Snorlax. Top part is 15 IV defense and the max HP for each. And sorry, it's they're all 15 IV defense and HP, but really the damage is only a little bit more for each. Blissey, you could see with like Shadow Ball here for Raikou that, at level 40, it could tank 3 of them before fainting without any heals or shields, versus it could also tank 3 with Snorlax. But the big difference here is with Thunder here. You could just see how much less damage each of these takes, but the max HP is a pretty large difference. All in all, and even with Moltres here, you can see with the Ancient Power and all that they take more than on average 2 level 3 shields. Snorlax actually has a couple that take a little less than that, but all in all, they're both really bad tanks. The main issue is they don't have enough resistances, and even with Shadow Ball, I would call them poor tanks because Snorlax versus Raikou with Shadow Ball still will take 2 max shields worth of damage at level 50. And these are pretty much exact things, because I do have a very good calculation of what Raikou was doing. The only difference would be about 1 HP in difference depending on rounding errors. So all in all, Snorlaxes and Blissey's both really bad tanks, and I just really want to hit that home. So let's talk about Snorlax and healing and us. Until basically last week, Lapras was our best healer, and Blissey came out basically almost fully lapping. Snorlax is not quite perfectly in between, still a little closer to Snorlax than Blissey. But all in all, Snorlax is the second best healer. What I would like to state is, let's take a look at Blissey's level 50 versus Snorlax. To level 40 or level 50 doesn't really matter that much. Max Spirits will give you about 90 HP versus 130 to 140 HP for Blissey. But Mad, you're saying Snorlax is a better healer, even though it takes 3 level 3 max spirits to heal what Blissey can do in 2. And what I will say is yes, but we're going to save that for the ending. If you don't want to go through the rest of that, you could quickly go to the ending. But first, we're going to talk about the best tanks for Snorlax at this point. Best tanks are Gengar, Metagross, and Excadrill. All of them have some positives, some of them have very big negatives, and others have smaller negatives. Let's talk with Gengar. Gengar is a sneaky tank here, with normal being at minus 60.9%, and superpower or the fighting being at minus 75.9%. And from a tank standpoint, Gengar is the best overall on normal and fighting. But if you get a heavy slam or an outrage, it will get absolutely destroyed. I am actually going to plan on having a Gengar on the team as my initial tank. Make sure that your Gengar has Sucker Punch. You do not want to use a Ghost attack against it. It is too highly resistant. You're right. It probably won't do that much difference overall, but I don't know how resistances affect how it fills up. I think my theory is that with that 0.5 second move, well, Sucker Punch is 0.5, but with a move there, that it would still hit minimum and not change, but I don't want to risk it, especially against Snorlax. Now remember, this damage is assuming the increase in stats of Raikou. I think it's probably going to be a bit lower because this is pretty scary overall and requires some very specific Pokemon. And if you don't have these Pokemon, there's absolutely no chance. I do think we'll back off a little bit here, but we'll just kind of use these for scale. So I don't really want to scare too many people off initially. But as you can see here, Gengar with anything normal type or physical type is by far the best tank of the three for how much damage it is going to take, even though its defense is very poor. Its HP, though, is really small, and it is a bit scary. And if you're taking a look at between Gengar and Metagross, you will be able to do a 0.5 second attack with Gengar, but Metagross will be able to take this damage a lot better overall. But with Gengar does have a few attacks that are within one max guard level, and honestly, that's huge. Gengar has 2 different attacks that are within 1 to 2 max guard levels, even with this absolutely insane damage output. And so Gengar is definitely one that I think you should put in there. The other 2 are Metagross and Excadrill. Metagross' main weakness is that it does not have a 0.5 second attack. My suggestion is going to be for your main tank will be probably using Metagross, because Metagross can survive pretty much any and all attacks other than Earthquake and Hyper Beam at these levels. Hyper Beam should be able to survive with a max guard level, but even Gengar with its 60.9% is struggling on Hyper Beam. So that's why I'm thinking they're going to step it down just a little bit for the overall damage and fine tune it for each and every battle. But once again, this is more for scale than anything else. Finally, with Excadrill, you could just see Excadrill's with its much lower defense just takes a lot more damage and also is super weak against its superpower fighting as well. There's going to be a lot of people that will be using Excadrill, and it can take the damage, but it will require a lot faster tanking overall. Excadrill does have a 0.5 second attack, which should fill your system a little faster. So it kind of depends on exactly how your team's made up. But we'll go a little bit more detail in a second. The best attackers, this is a lot simpler. Somehow, Phalanx is actually on here, and let me tell you, this surprised me. But the best attacker in general is Machamp. This does not surprise anybody, and should not surprise anybody. You are not going to be using these attackers during the non-transformation phase. It does not matter what type of attack that you do have on there, other than the type of attack. For Machamp and for Phalanx, you're definitely going to want to be putting fighting in there. Actually, I don't think you can do too much else, but fighting type is exactly what you're looking for. Gmax Kingler can use any of the attack as its next, and it's just slightly worse off than Phalanx. Personally, I'm using my Machamp, but if I didn't have a Machamp, I'd be using my Gmax Kingler, as that's my as that's fully ready, and my Phalanx is still level 20, just waddling in shame. Finally, the next highest is Gmax Toxtricity. Do not use Gmax Gengar for attacks. It will lose so much of its attack overall because of the 60.5% resistance. So Machamp, then followed by Phalanx, and then Gmax Kingler, Gmax Toxtricity, and other Gmaxes in general. Now, if we get D-Max Urshifu Rapid or Single Strike, it would be the most powerful attacker before before April 19th. I do not know when we will get G-Max, or the D-Max Urshifu Rapid Single Strike. That would be another 10-15% better than Machamp. But as of right now, and I'm making this on the 25th of March, Machamp is the attacker that we're going to want to use. So let's do with the overall battle plan for Gigantamax. We're going to need to hunker down, everyone. This one will most likely be a bit difficult with the high attacks that it can do and all the different types of attack, and it's obviously large HP pool. Chansey was a joke. It had less than half the overall attack, and its attacks were much lower. Plus, it was only a 1 or 2 star. I can't even remember anymore. It was a 2 star if I remember correctly. This is going to be a lot worse. If we're lucky, Niantic will tone down the attack and make it a lot more respectable. Otherwise, you're really going to need to focus on having the correct tanks. Most likely, getting to that first transformation will be rough, and there could be some Pokemon wipes depending on what element is used against it, and I would highly suggest that you use your weaker tank during the initial encounter. If you are on a team, you're going to want to make sure that one person has Metagross for the tank. Others should be able to use faster attacks, aka Excadrill. So if you have 1 Metagross, 3 Excadrills, the Metagross is going to want to be using its shields the most. Why does it want to use its shields? One, when you use a shield, you give a chance for a provoke on a single attack instead of 4. Even if that single attack really hurts said tank, you're doing a huge service as you're allowing the other 3 units to basically get away during that transformation scot-free. If you plan this correctly, you can pretty much destroy Gmaxes within 2 rounds after that first transformation. Avoid Earthquake at all costs with the team that I have in place. You'll probably need to avoid Hyper Beam as well. All the non-tanks should switch to Machamp, as that is by far the strongest Pokemon to attack with, at about 20 to 25% better, followed by Phalanx. I can't believe I'm saying that. And then Gmax Kingler is only a percentage point or so away. But by far, main goal is going to be get through with the first one. I'm going to be bringing in my Gengar. My Gengar, if the right attacks hit it, will take very little damage. And actually, if it looks like it's surviving really, really well, I'll keep my Gengar in there. I always act as the tank in my groups. We seem to do very well in that regards, and the rest of my team will be able to use like Excadrills or 0.5 second units, and then I will be able to use a 0.5 if I can keep Gengar in there. My Gengar gets wiped, my Metagross should be fine as long as we avoid Earthquake, and if it uses Earthquake, we're just going to reset and go back in. Now, I know I've been kind of dancing around this. Is Gmax Snorlax worth it for you? As an attacker, it's not going to be used as main attacker. As a defender, it's not going to be used because it's a lower defense. As a healer, it's really strong, but Blissey is far superior per heal. But what in the world will you use it for then? And it's as simple as, think of it this way. Most Pokemon have around 135 to 140 HP that we're using right now. Blissey will overheal with the first 2 and then hit with an incredibly weak attack. Basically, you're skipping that turn anyways. You could use a shield to try to provoke, but Chanseys or Blisseys aren't going to be tanking. So that third overall spot will be mostly wasted. But with a Snorlax, it still should be able to heal around 90, which is 2/3. And honestly, most of the time, that's all you're looking for healing. You can then actually still hit it pretty hard with a normal attack with your Gmax, and it is by far our best DPS healer. So, what in the world is a DPS healer? We're going to go kind of into MMO RPGs here. It's in the name. It's a healer that can attack, and for Pokemon Go, it's something that can attack with decent damage on the third max move. With Blissey's damage being so poor, really you're only going to heal 3 times, and with the enraged tactic or system involved, after 5.5 minutes, could be 5 minutes, it could be 6 minutes, it's somewhere around there. This is not the optimal strategy, and Blissey just tends to overheal in general. And yes, with large groups, with well organized groups, you can get away with this, but from just thinking in general, you want to be using your transformation turns to their fullest. Instead, having a healer that can heal twice very strongly and then attack on the third max move is absolutely ideal. How much healing you need is really determined by who you bring. And because of general, even with not Snorlax, with Metagross, who has 172 HP, that's still healing more than half of its main HP points as the tank, let alone Excadrill, that's 135, and other units that are in the 140s or 120s even for HP. All in all, we should be able to get well within what we need. And if someone's hurt real bad, you could still heal on the third one anyways. And with the amount of damage that Blissey doesn't really do, it's almost always going to just do a better job overall using all 3 of its moves. And for that, for at least right now, I'm going to prefer Snorlax over Blissey if I have a healing strategy. You can always replace it with the Blissey, but once again, it's just not nearly as optimal. So for me, is Gmax Snorlax going to be worth it? My answer is going to be yes, but I also do this because of the sweet, sweet Stardust, and I'm not sure I'm going to be leveling up either my Blissey or my Snorlax for a little bit, as healing's still not really the most meta overall. And with that, I go through my long-awaited Gmax Snorlax review. I know there's going to be a lot of discussion about this, and I 100% welcome this. This is definitely a unit that when I first looked at it, it's like, might be useless. But when I started thinking about it more and more, I actually think it has a better niche than Blissey, and it has a higher priority for me than Blissey. With that, if you would like to add to the discussion or have got any questions, please answer down below. Like and subscribe if you haven't. That greatly helps my channel. I've honestly been blessed with all the growth, and heartfelt thank you to every one of you that have subscribed and followed. Also, I have a Twitch when I'm on live with Twitch, which a few of you have been using. I am very happy to answer questions to the best of my ability. Not all of them will have the data that I have here, but some of them have made me do videos, which has been absolutely wonderful, and is a good way to interact with me more on a truly live basis. More importantly, good luck. I hope you all have hundos, but as always, I will try to do better next time. See you all later, trainers.